keynote speaker, brand evangelist, and is the acting CMO of Brand Innovators. Ted is the most followed CMO on Twitter, according to Social Media Marketing Magazine, one of the most interesting CMOs on Twitter, according to Say Media, number 13 on Forbes' The 50 Social Media Power Influencers 2013, and number 2 on the Lead Tail August 2013 list of the top 25 people most mentioned by digital marketers. He's going to be here today to talk about how to achieve a return on relationship going beyond social ROI. Please welcome Ted Rubin.
So what you guys are going to learn about me very quickly is that my mind is like a Twitter feed. Stuff just pops into it all the time. So a couple of things are going to happen. I'm going to go off on tangents. It might not even be up on the screen. You guys got two choices. You can pull me back and say you never finished what you were talking about, or just smile and enjoy what I'm talking about and let me go. It's really, really up to you. So my name's Ted Rubin. I'm at Ted Rubin on Twitter. A little background, I got involved in the digital space back in 1997, and somebody took my water too. Anybody got a water bottle for me? Oh, awesome, thank you. In 1997, I joined a company called Yoyodyne that was founded by somebody most of you have probably heard of, Seth Godin. Seth liked me because I didn't have any hair. True story. Okay? So I was warned that when I come back, I was living in Florida at the time. I had relocated from New York after a career in investment banking, just trying to mellow out a little bit. And I was coming up to New York. It was 1997, and people said, be careful of those guys. They call them coders. They're really weird. We got any coders in the room here? Okay. I walk into the cavernous office of Yoyodyne, and there's this really weird-looking guy, bald head, wearing flip-flops and a turtleneck sweater that went from his ankles up to his neck, walking around. And I said, that's one of those guys. And I said, I'm going to stay away from that guy. I start getting interviewed. I'm in an office. I'm told, before you leave, we have somebody who would like to meet you. My back's to the door, and all of a sudden I feel a hand on my head saying, I like your head. And as a normal New Yorker, I'm about to turn around and, something stopped me. Just don't do it. And he goes, hi, Seth Godin. Nice to meet you. So that was my introduction to Seth, and I was really lucky because I moved up from Florida to get back into this new industry, to get back to New York into this new industry, and I made a critical error. At the time, I was married, and I moved in with my in-laws because my family was still back in Florida, and it was like, hey, you're just going to have to sleep here. It's not a big deal. Well, it was a really big deal. Don't ever do that, especially if your in-laws are like the Costanzas, okay? So I made sure to get out of the house every morning by 5:30 a.m. before anybody woke up. And the good fortune of that is that Seth's an early riser. And I was the only guy in this huge office with him. And Seth was holding forth on all his marketing thinking that was all starting to blossom out of his head. This was before he wrote any of his bestsellers. And he actually coined the term permission marketing when we were sitting there talking, and he wrote an article in Fast Company. So I like to talk, and any of you guys that have bumped into me or talked to me, you know that I can go on and on. Jay Barrow said to me, next time you're on a panel, try to give someone else a chance to speak, if possible. But I realized I was in the presence of greatness, and I just shut up and I listened. And I just learned a tremendous amount. It's really where my thinking about return on relationships started. So that's a little bit about there. I progressed through this industry. I ended up at a company called Elf Cosmetics, EyeslipsFace.com, where I was CMO. At the time, they had under $10 million in sales. Now they're probably over $100 million. They were strictly e-tail then. I jumped them into the social space. We had the largest social presence for a cosmetics firm in the world back in early days of 2008, 2009, built the first aggregated content site that sucked in content, and I just had a great opportunity to learn because I was at a company, number one, that had no attorneys. Awesome, right? Nobody telling me what I could and couldn't do. So I would be hanging out with guys like Jeffrey Hazlett from Kodak and Barry Judge from Best Buy, and we'd come up with all these ideas, and they'd say, yeah, you try it. And so I got to try all these great ideas that even weren't necessarily mine. And number two is I had a family-owned business that if it didn't cost them anything in media costs, God bless, go for it. And then the most beautiful thing in the world, I was selling a product to women. There is, write this down, tweet this out, social media ceases to exist without women. It's over. Men do not communicate that way. We talk at each other. We have no interest in what the other guy is saying. We don't care what you're saying. We're just waiting for you to finish so we can say what we want to say. I don't care how metro a guy is. He's not walking into a store, taking a picture of his shirt, sending it out to 10 of his besties, asking their opinion, polling the answers, buying the shirt, going home, and his best boyfriend calls him up or his best buddy calls him up and says, nah, now he's got to take it back to the store. Just doesn't happen. And women love cosmetics. I was not a cosmetics marketer. I was just a marketer that they brought in to shake things up. And I started sending out cosmetics. And every day the emails I got back was, oh my God, I was up all night playing with my new stuff. You guys play with cosmetics, right? I mean, I sent this out to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. And I got the email at the top. It said, do not share this with anybody. But I was up all night playing with my stuff. So I got to really play with a product that was fun, that was aspirational, and that women loved. And I built up a database of 2.4 million women that opted in for our email newsletter. A newsletter that 90% of the time was pitching products. But they just wanted it because they loved the aspirational nature of it. They didn't care that it was dollar cosmetics and they probably bought Trish McEvoy or Chanel and it was a whole different story. And that our blog wasn't about beauty. Our blog was about fun. Our blog was about lifestyle in New York. We had mom bloggers blogging for us about all different topics. So it was a lot of fun. And I really believe that storytelling is the key to connection. You guys know that connection for me is really important. People say content is king. I say if content is king, then connection is most certainly queen. Okay, that's what's really important. And it's a way of how do you connect with people. So you guys know that you heard this morning that I wear funky socks. So if you didn't see them this morning, here they are. This was not a brainstorming session that I sat around saying, how can I get myself attention? I wear funky socks. People started taking pictures of them at conferences. They started posting them, and other people started saying, what's Ted wearing today? So instead of saying, well, I just did that for that conference, like how many brands do you know that do that? Campaign-based marketing. They don't even listen and see that people are loving it. But what did P&G do during the Olympics that women loved, and it ended because the Olympics ended? So that was something for me that I knew connected. It was authentic. It was me. I wear vests when I speak. All of a sudden, people, if I don't wear a vest, tweets go out saying, how come Ted isn't wearing a vest today? So people see Gary Vaynerchuk on stage, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and he's wearing a vest, and the tweets go out and say, who do you think you are, at Ted Rubin? I said, I'm going to keep wearing vests. You know, bow ties are something that, for me, creates storytelling. So this bow tie was created by a company here in San Diego called The Crow Thief that heard my story about bow ties at a conference I was at. And somebody went out and bought me a bow tie, and they started talking about it. And they reached out to us and said, let's design a bow tie crowdsource, first ever. So 5 of us online picked fabrics, did things, created it, and then they sent us bow ties. And you might say, why do I wear bow ties? Well, anybody here know Donnie Deutsch? Anybody hear that name? You guys in marketing for a long time, Donnie Deutsch. Deutsch, big, sold a company for $300 million. Well, I knew Donnie back when he wasn't Donnie Deutsch. He was David Deutsch's son. And David Deutsch and Associates was what Deutsch was called back in the day. It was a smaller boutique agency, and Donnie was like a rich kid. He was the kid that hung out with us in the Hamptons, who was working for his dad. Don't take anything away from Donnie. Incredibly brilliant. Took that company from a small boutique agency to basically run the world of advertising. But when I hung out with Donnie, we would party out in the Hamptons. Anybody here live in New York? Anybody know what it's like in the summers, especially back in the day? Probably still is. I'm just not going out there. But work ends in the summers on Thursday night. Everybody runs out to the Hamptons. They stay out there until either late Sunday night or early Monday morning. They come back in, and all we know is people in flip-flops and shorts. So I only knew Donnie from passing out on front lawns and waking up in the morning and saying, dude, we got to go home. We got to get out of here. Never saw him in a suit. The summer ends. We're back in the city. This is back in the 80s, late 80s. Everyone's suited up, zany suits, ties. I see Donnie 3 times in a row out at a bar. He's got bow ties on. So finally, my curiosity gets the better of me. I go, Donnie, what's the deal? He goes, chicks dig bow ties. That's all he had to say. He had my total and utter. For the first time as a guy, I was actually listening. I might be taking a different bottle now, but I said, really? He said, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. And this comes into differentiation. How do you differentiate yourself? What do you do online that makes you different? So I said, where do I buy them? He says, best place is Paul Stewart. Go there. I'm saying, okay, I'm like walking away. He goes, no, don't run away so fast. Come here. Let me give you the rest. He goes, here's the deal. You got to learn how to tie it really well. And I'm like, so what's the big deal? He goes, just go buy the bow ties, learn how to tie it. I said, why? He said, because here's what's going to happen. A woman's going to walk up to you, and she's going to say, nice bow tie. And as she's saying that, she's going to say, is it real? And it's already going to be open. And then the next question is going to be, so can you tie that, or does somebody have to tie it for you? That's the closing question. That's, do you have a wife or a girlfriend? So now, if you can tie it right back up, the next time she opens it, it's game on. So I immediately go to Paul Stewart the next morning. I buy out the store in bow ties, And I say to the guy, so teach me how to tie it. He goes, we don't do that here. Sir. And he hands me, remember guys, this is 1989. There is no YouTube. He hands me a chart with arrows, like that IKEA directions you get for your furniture that you spend 5 hours trying to put together, that have arrows going like this, and you're like, what? And what do? You tie it like in a knot. I spent an entire Sunday watching 3 football games, learning how to tie this bow tie so that I could do it effectively, so that I would get the results I was looking for. I will tell you that that was the best year of my life. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that I was 30, had money in my pocket, no kids, no family, was able to run around and have fun, but it was the best year of my life, and I've started wearing bow ties again, and I'll tell you, they still work. So here's what we're going to do here. A big part of connecting with people is getting them in the right frame of mind, right? Okay, so I need 4 volunteers. Don't be afraid, come on. Okay, come on, you, and Heather, come on. Heather convinced me to come here. I was going to go upstairs and take a nap. She said, come on, you're on 3 o'clock. Come on down. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get everybody up from their seats. Each one of you is going to take a section. Okay, walk around. And everybody's coming outside with me. And I'm going to show you how you put yourself, your company, and your customers in a great frame of mind. Let's go, everybody up. Come on. Let's go. We're going out to the door. We got to do this quickly because otherwise we're going to run out of time and we're not going to be able to talk anymore.
Thanks for doing this, actually.
Well, good. You guys don't have to come back if you don't want. Okay, but here's what we're going to do. I'm a divorced dad. I realized that I have to connect with my kids, and they were 5 and 7 when I got divorced. And one of the problems I had, come on everybody out, was that they bickered with each other, right? Any of you guys have little kids? She's touching me, she's pinching me, she's smelling me, my personal favorite. Okay? Daddy, she's smelling me. And I realized that if you take little girls, okay, and you take them by the hand, I need 2 hands, come on. And if you skip, come on, everybody take a hand, let's skip down the hole, come on. Everybody, we're skipping, let's go. Come on, let's go. You can't not be happy when you're skipping, okay? Now think about this, let's go. Look at the smiles on your faces. If you're skipping, you're happy. Now you're going to say to me, what does this have to do with business? Okay, you can turn around. Come on back, or you can leave. So if you're skipping, you're happy. So I'm going to give you guys some advice. Any day you're having a bad day, get up and skip from your desk. I guarantee you if it doesn't make you happy, it will make everybody in your office happy. Number 2, if you can make your customers skip metaphorically with every interaction they have with you, you win. That is the brass ring. Okay, sorry, but now you got to come back in and sit down. And we can skip. Oh my God, you guys didn't come? Let's go, come on. Okay, I'm going to start talking as you're coming back in. So as you can see, I'm saying there's a change going on. We have to start actually connecting with people. We are going back to small town America, but we're doing it at scale. You tell me if I'm wrong. You want people to understand you. And that doesn't mean that you want them to spend all day talking to you. That means you want them to know what you bought last, what you did. You want them to use that, what they call that targeting information, for valuable things, for adding value to life, not just to sell you more shit. I like to call it matchmaking versus targeting. So let's see, how does this thing work? So welcome to the age of influence, people, where anyone can build an audience, affect change, make a difference, build relationships right from your bedroom. You guys don't even have to come here. You never have to leave your home, and you can build relationships at scale. It used to be you had to spend money to come to events like this. I'm not saying they're not important. You should want to connect with people. But you don't have to start building those relationships. How many people came here and met people they'd known for years online and had never met face to face? How many people felt incredibly close to those people? Hugged them, right? Knew about them. Probably knew more about them than a lot of the people you consider friends at home that you haven't known for a lot of years. We can all do this. I think was part of the conversation on the panel today about what we're doing, but anybody can build a brand. Jeff Ross was talking about the guy with 25 million YouTube followers. We've all heard about it. Relationships are the new currency. You're all sitting out there, you've heard me say that, and you're saying, come on, Ted, relationships have always been a currency. But they're more so now because they scale. Just like we were talking earlier, how do you scale that feeling? How do you scale connection? How do you scale communication? If I have 2 million fans on Facebook, how can I actually build relationships with them? You can, because I'm telling you right now, most people do not want to talk to you. But they want to see you talking to other people. They want to feel that when they do want to talk to you, you'll be there, and they know that when they see you interact with other people randomly. How many people here work for big brands or even medium-sized brands? You have your agencies telling you got to get more comments on your Facebook page. You heard Nicole today, who I love, say that your blog is not worth anything if it doesn't have comments. You heard my answer. There's a hashtag out there now. That's utter nonsense. I didn't say crap, okay? So to me, that is utter nonsense, because people are going to participate with you. Seth doesn't even allow comments on his blog. You need to actually make friends, not just click a button. So this started really scaring me a couple of years ago when my daughters were coming over every other weekend, and they'd lock the door, go open their room, and they wouldn't leave their room for like the whole weekend. How many people have that happening? You walk by, you hear voices. You walk in, you see 5 different screens going. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know, when I grew up, you went out and played. Like, what's going on? Do you guys have friends? And my daughter goes, yeah, Dad, I got 500 friends. Look. And shows me her Facebook number. I'm like, really? Who's that? I don't know. Who's that? I don't know. I think she knows Lori. I'm like, these aren't your friends. And what scared me was not my daughters. I have total faith in them. I give them lots of rope. I want them to learn how to operate in the world. I am the opposite of a helicopter parent. Okay? I want them, but what scares me is you guys are all doing the same thing. Every one of you guys. You're doing it on your own Facebook pages. You're doing it on your companies. You think the click of a button is a friendship. It's not. It's the initial handshake. It's the door opener that allows you to start a conversation. So you're hearing all this talk here now about how horrible Facebook's gotten, and the engagement's not what it used to be, and people don't see things. And I say, that's a bunch of bullshit also. Because you guys just aren't using it the way it should be. You get all those likes on your page. Why aren't you going and visiting those people's pages? Anybody ever hear the expression, I wish I was a fly on the wall in that meeting? You guys can all be flies on the wall. Everyone's inviting you into their living room. They're sitting there on their pages talking about everything they do. You know, when they go to the bathroom, for God's sake, you could sell them more toilet paper. By the way, they're selling ads on toilet paper now. It's really cool. Okay, so print is not dead. Friends, fans, followers, are they an audience or an asset? Now, you'll hear me use the word audience because it's part of my vernacular. You guys are all going to use it, but the truth is, I view anybody that follows me as an asset. What do you do when you buy a home? You want to sell it for more money. How do you do that? You nurture it. You paint the outside of the house. You fix it up. You upgrade it. That's what you should be doing with the people that follow you, adding to their lives. So today a big deal was made about the fact that I follow everybody back. I do. And I do it for mostly because that will keep them following me. Why? Because that keeps them in my audience, which enables me to build relationships with them. You guys can do the same thing. You got to start paying attention to them. I'm going to give you a really, really important tip here. Jeff Roy's talked about some really great books, and he said, like to me, he's like, we're going to go back in time, and I think he went back, 15 years? I'm going to go back a lot farther than that. I'm going to tell you guys the best social media book ever written. I'm going to tell you guys to go out and buy it. I have it on my iPad, my iPhone. I have one on my desk, and I have an original copy that somebody went out and bought for me. I'm going to give you a clue. It was written in 1936. Any guesses? Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. More relevant today than it was when it was written in 1936, because back then there were 5 people living in your town. That's who you were winning friends. Now you can win friends with thousands and millions of people by doing what? By calling them by name. Follow me on Twitter. Look at me on any social media platform. I answer you by name every time I can, unless you make it so difficult that I can't even dig down and find it. I know every blogger, especially the mom bloggers whose husbands say, I want you protecting our privacy, honey. So they're blogging mama and their name isn't listed there. I can find their name. You can find their name. There is no such thing as privacy anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be afraid of it, because the bad guys can always find you. It's people that want to find you, well, the people that you want to find you, the marketers, the investors, the people that you want that aren't going to go to that extra effort. Let them, you don't have to give them your home street address, but let them know what state you live in, for God's sake. Give them some information they can connect with you. How many people here were trained on how to go in an office and meet somebody in sales or how to go on their first date? What were you taught? Look at people. Look them in the eye. Pay attention to them. I call this looking people in the eye digitally. It's my next book. And it talks about how do you make a connection with people. So I actually look at people's bios. Oh my God, wow. There's a phenomenon. I dig into their Facebook pages. I see what they're interested in. I randomly go to people's Facebook pages every week and their Twitter handles. And I look at their bios. I see what they're tweeting. Every company here has that at their access. You get more people liking your page. Guess what? You can go to their pages and see what they're talking about. You shouldn't have to worry about what it is. You shouldn't have agencies telling you you need more comments. You're not getting enough engagement on your page. I don't even care about the page. I mean, it's nice. But the other thing is with these changes, if you work harder, you get more value. I get more value today out of my Facebook page than I ever got a year or two ago. Because guess what? Everybody else is bitching and moaning and complaining, and I'm going out there and engaging with people. The more you engage with people, the more you see of their stuff. And yes, I know it's a little extra effort to click on their profile, but you can do that. And you can do it one by one. And it scales because people are going to see me talking to you. So I'm going to give out my phone number, 516-270-5511. Anybody is welcome to call me. Nobody here in this room is going to call me. I might get one call. Because you guys don't like the phone. 516-270-5511. Oh, that's it. Maybe it's that I'm saying it so fast. Okay, so I'll have to slow it down a little bit. Truth be told, most people don't want to talk to you on the phone. But what's going to happen is 10 people in this room are going to tweet out, Ted Rubin just gave out his phone number. And that's my real phone number. And that's going to build my brand because people are going to say, wow, Ted gave his phone number out on stage. I tell most people, if you want to have a cup of coffee with me, reach out. I will give you a time. 9 out of 10 times you won't be able to make it. You won't follow up. You won't call me back. I can't tell you how many people have called me up, told me they're desperate to meet with me. I go, great, Tuesday at 10. They go, good. I go, send me an invite so it hits my calendar. Never hear from them. But they go out and say, I just called Ted Rubin and I've got an appointment. That builds your brand. Social is a facilitator of relationships. It is not the relationship itself, people. Don't care about the platforms. It's about the people. You guys got to look at their names. See what they're interested in. It's reputation, not ranking. Stop worrying about what your numbers are. Stop worrying where you're in. It's about your reputation. What do people say about you? How do they think about you? Now, normally I jump ahead to the next slide here, but then I won't be able to come back because this doesn't do that. Okay? So what I'll tell you is the next slide says, a brand is what your business does. A reputation is what people remember. So you can all day long say, we are the best store that gives great customer service, but you're not that. Home Depot loves to say that, right? Anybody here from Home Depot? Hope not. Home Depot loves to say that, but have you recently tried to go in a store and find someone to help you? Absolutely impossible. People share that with other people. That's why Lowe's is growing at such a dramatic rate, because when you walk into a Lowe's, you can actually find someone to help you. That's what makes a big difference. You guys might all scoff at Walmart, but Walmart's made a major effort in the last couple of years to make people in the aisles and available with a smile on their face. What is the ROI of a smile? It's about connection. It's about friendship. It's about feeling good. Everybody prefers to do business with somebody they like. Oh, now I did it and I can't go back. That's okay. Leave it. Okay? It's about loyalty, not celebrity. Does anybody really believe that people buy L'Oreal, that you're going to look like Andy McDowell if you buy L'Oreal? Anybody, any woman in this room really believe that? No, there's a reason that homemade videos about beauty get more click-throughs and sell more product than what the celebrities are pitching. Because we've come to the point where we trust the people around us more. Loyalty is so much more important than celebrity. Here's a company that gets it. JetBlue. I think I mentioned them very briefly this morning, but here's a company that interacts and engages and doesn't try to draw a straight line to sales. What they do is they draw a straight line to brand reputation. And over the years, they've measured what their share of voice is, what their net promoter score is, how they're viewed, and how that goes versus the way their numbers are going up and down. Now, I don't know if anybody knows this, but I have a JetBlue. Anybody here ever hear my JetBlue story? Beautiful. Okay, I love when I can use my old stuff. I don't have to come up with new stuff. Okay, but it's really a great story because it represents what happens with a company like this. So back, you guys might remember in 2008, 2009, JetBlue was having a lot of planes stuck on the runway. It became a crisis around the country. They were getting stuck in every airport. There was a real problem with their logistics. And people were complaining and getting crazy, and JetBlue made a critical decision. We're not going to advertise our way out of this. We're not going to put out billboards that say, JetBlue is fixing everything. Because basically, what would you say? Show it to me. Show me the money. JetBlue decided to put their strategy behind this new thing called social media. And that they were going to rebuild their brand by doing something really unique for a brand. They can actually talk to you. Ladies, tell me the truth. What is the most important thing to you with your girlfriends or your husband? Listening. You want us to hear you. You want us to pay attention. Well, JetBlue started paying attention. So it's 2009. It's the end of this whole problem. They only had a few, remaining flights that were having problems. And guess who gets stuck on one? Yours truly. Where am I going? I'm on my way to South by Southwest. Anybody hear of that? South by Southwest? Right? Biggest digital event in the world. I'm sitting on the runway for 2 hours, and all I'm getting is, I'm sorry, sir, we'll get off we're doing the best we can. So I, like a good social media guy, I whip out my laptop, I throw in my hotspot, and I tweet out the way I do to most brands. Love you at JetBlue, but not today. What's going on with my flight? Been stuck on the runway for 2 hours with no answers. Within 2 minutes, I got a response. And it started out with what you'd expect, a boilerplate response. We're doing the best we can. We hope to have you in the air soon, and thank you very much. But that wasn't good enough for me, so I kept going back saying, well, that's what I'm hearing from the flight attendants. That's what I'm hearing everywhere else. I want to know what's really going on. Over the course of the next few minutes, I was told what was going on. I was told that our bags were on the wrong plane. Apparently, our bags were on the New Orleans flight, and the New Orleans bags were on our flight. Now, this is 2009. There weren't a lot of brands sharing this kind of information. But here I am. I don't, like most of our clients, I don't understand the logistics of the airline business. Most of your clients don't understand the logistics of your business. So I'm sitting there going, so what's the big deal? Take the bags off of one plane, walk them over. Take the bags off the other plane, walk them over. I volunteered to get off the plane and get 10 other guys to help, and we'll get this thing done in like 2 seconds. Like, what's the big deal? So instead of just saying, I'm sorry, sir, we can't do that, I start getting information. I'm told, well, we can't do that because of FAA regulations. We need to have a gate. You can't unload bags on the tarmac. You need a union crew. I mean, they started going through the list. And during this back and forth conversation, about 10 minutes in, they say, good news. We located a crew. We located a gate. We're going to have you in the air in a half an hour. What do most of us want? We want an end game. We want to know. We can deal with 2 hours. If we know it's 2 hours, we gauge our time. We do things. We save our little candy bar. We share the M&Ms just 2 at a time. And we know that we'll get there. Okay, so they thought it was over. Thank you very much. I tweet out and go, that's all well and good, but we're on our way to South by Southwest. And we don't go there for business. We go there for the parties, right? Everybody? I mean, it's about the parties. So I said, how about free drinks for everybody on the plane? And I get back your standard boilerplate. FAA regulations say blah, 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 blah. And I tweet back, blah, 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 blah. We don't care. We want a party. So after a little bit back and forth, they come back and say, listen, we can't do that, but we'll give you free movies on the plane. This is before JetBlue now has an escalation policy. You automatically get these things. Just trying to have a little fun. I said, that's great. By the way, I'm telling everybody on the plane all this information. The flight attendants are coming to me for information. They made me a hero. They got tweets about it all over the place. And they got everybody on the planes thinking, this is really awesome. We take off. We land. JetBlue in 2009 had no Wi-Fi. They're finally putting it in. Okay, it's called Fly-Fi. I just went on the maiden voyage. But I land, and what do I do like a good social media guy? I go to my smartphone. I tweet out, kudos to @JetBlue. They couldn't fix my problem, because no flight is ever taking off because we bitch that it's not taking off. But they engaged me. 4 weeks later, I'm on a panel at the CMO Club Summit with chief marketing officers from Fortune 500 companies down to startups. Jeff Roars, who you met today on the stage, was moderating the panel. And I was on it. It turns out Morgan Johnson from JetBlue was on the panel. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. And Jamie Ponichel from Citibank, who was there before Frank Eliason. And the nature of the panel was, here's an aspirational brand, Elf Cosmetics, versus companies that only get complaints. How do you gauge the two? A few minutes into the conversation, Morgan is talking about how they try to answer every tweet that comes to them and engage people. And I looked at him, I just said, I got to give you guys kudos. And he just stopped talking. And there was silence that felt like a minute. He's shaking his finger at me. And he looks up at the screen and he goes, oh my God, you're the guy. You're at Ted Rubin. You're the drinks guy. I'm looking at him just as incredulously. How do you know? He was the guy that runs communications for JetBlue. He goes, because that was me tweeting with you. Why? Because back in 2009, even back then, JetBlue had an escalation policy that raised the bar from someone who couldn't to someone who could answer your questions. They look at the size of your following. They look at how aggressively you're answering the question, and they make sure someone could do it. Now, today, they had 5 people in the department then. Today, they have 40 plus. They have an escalation policy that doesn't only include people on the team, but they have access to somebody in every single department at JetBlue. So they can answer operational questions, they can answer engineering questions, and those people know that if they get notice from somebody on the social media team, they need to get them information. So this is a company that, and they're still doing that. This didn't go on for a year. I didn't hear, okay, we've done some nice stuff with that fun social media stuff. How are we going to move on? They are engaging more. They follow. You name their name anywhere. You tweet them, they will tweet you back. Dwayne Reed gets it. Mentioned them a little bit quickly earlier. Again, full disclosure, I represented Dwayne Reed when I was at Collective Bias. We developed their social media strategy. They had 900 Twitter followers when we started. You see that number there? They get 4 times the engagement on Twitter of any other company that Twitter works with. They wrote a case study about them. Because they talk about things people are interested in. Because they engage them like friends. People do want to be friends with a brand. Do they want you in their house? Not necessarily. Are they going to invite you to your child's baby naming? Probably not. But they want to know that you care about them. They want to know that you're talking about fun things. They want to know that you're not just trying to sell them. And guess what? You will sell them more. You will. It's common sense. People tell me all the time that what I'm talking about is common sense. This is no big deal. That's right. But guess what? Common sense, it's not very common. And I can prove that to any of these people that say it by opening up their Twitter followings of them and their companies and seeing how they communicate. And saying right there, where's the common sense? You didn't say hello to one person. You didn't engage with anybody. Every one of your tweets is promotional. Trust is built based on interaction. Consistency. Think about that. The more consistent you are, the more people trust you. Same thing with your kids. If your kids are consistent, if they answer you all the time, you know it, you trust them. The most valuable, people ask you the ROI of social media. I'll get into a little bit more about that later, but one of the best ones I call social insurance. That means when you do good for people, when you're open, honest, consistent, and true to your word, they will give you a buy when you ask for it. Think about it in your personal relationships. If your kid answers you all the time, is honest, says, yes, Dad, I did have a few beers. Yes, that did happen the other day. Especially when she got in the car reeking of beer. You know, it was kind of like, honey, got something you want to tell me? And she kind of looked at me, and she kind of looked back, kind of thought it over in her head, and she goes, yeah, I had a few beers. Actually, my question was, did you drink them or did you spill them? But the truth is, if that kid looks at you after being honest with you every time and says, Dad, today I can't tell you, do me a favor, let it go. 9 times out of 10, you will let it go. You'll do the same for your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, and you'll do the same thing for a company.